All right, everybody. Welcome back to our second webinar of Hog Week. We have a program lined up today with Varacity Aviation and Derek Smith. And I was looking to see if Derek has joined us yet. And I'll just go ahead and introduce the program, and we can add Derek in if he comes up. So today we're going to be talking about aerial control for feral hogs. It's been a very effective program for us for a number of years, starting in Caldwell County back even before the task force got started. We were doing some work with Wildlife Services. When we got our first grant in 2013 to expand into Hays County and do some additional work, we began flying a little over 20,000 acres in the Plum Creek watershed to mitigate the hog damage, and also as a management practice for water quality in Plum Creek. Excuse me. We're going to try to get a hold of Derek here in just a second. I apologize for the wait. And so over the last 2 years, though, we have used Varacity Aviation out of Seguin. We've been contracting with private companies to provide this service for a number of years. Varacity is working in Hays and Caldwell County. They've achieved landowner agreements with a number of our large farmers and have been providing this service. We also did a survey with them last year. So if you will bear with me for just one moment, we're going to try to get, oh wait, we might have Derek on. Let's see here. Yes, there he is. So sounds like Derek is, or it looks like Derek is just now joining us. So Derek, I've introduced the webinar, and I have introduced you as being with Varacity Aviation, and I thought today we could just kind of have a discussion about what you've been doing. And I think Derek has some cool videos to show us of the aerial control hunt. So we encourage the folks that are watching or listening in to send some questions with the chat function on this, and we can try to answer that. All right, Derek can't hear me yet, but we're getting close. I think he's going to call in. Ah, yes, he is. Okay, Derek, I think we should have you on audio now. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir. I got you. How about me?
I've got you here, so this is great. Okay. Well, Derek, I don't know if you heard me a second ago, but I kind of introduced the program, a little bit of history on this. But now that you're on, Valerie, if you can go ahead and let's share Derek's screen. And I will, let's see if I can stop sharing now, so you can maybe share Derek's screen. And so Derek, I was telling the listeners that we've been using aerial control in Caldwell County in the Plum Creek watershed for 7 or 8 years already. We've been working with you guys over the last 2 in Hays and Caldwell County, working to get landowner agreements. I think that it is sometimes it can be can seem like an expensive way to get rid of hogs, but when you can get rid of quite a number of hogs in a quick amount of time, it can really be beneficial. We see not every hog is going to go into a trap. Not every hog is going to, come. We're not going to get a lot of population control with hunting, but aerial control is one way to actually achieve population control. And so, Derek, how long have you and Varacity Aviation been doing aerial control work?
We've been doing aerial control work for at least 15 years. The thing that changed a few years back is with the new law that came out where you can have other folks hunt and pay to hunt on designated landowners' property. So what that to eradicate hogs for the purpose of eradication, period. And anyways, once I did, that really opened up a lot of aerial out because the burden wasn't so much on the landowner and be able to help out through the sub-agent process. Like Nick was saying, is with aerial eradication, is it does work. It's not a catch-all, cure-all. We're not going to kill every pig there is in the county. But what pigs do find out, as long as we fly on a regular basis, semi-regular basis, we can dang sure kill a lot of them, and we can darn sure move them off of property. They feel pressure, and it puts an intense amount of pressure, and they will figure it out. We've concentrated our efforts, especially around the San Marcos area between the airport and just to this. Yeah, due to the east of the airport, quite a bit in all the cornfields there, and went from being extremely severe damage to almost non-existent from the farmers that we were working with. And that was flying about once a week, especially when they first started planting, because that's where they're really susceptible when the corn just gets in the ground. And then once they start getting ears on, they'll start just knocking it down and eating. So as the corn gets taller, it's obviously a lot harder for us to hunt, but like I said, they will feel pressure. So once the herd starts moving in, we'll go and there's 20 of them, we'll pull 10 or 12 of them, and the rest of them will figure out that's not a great place to be, and they'll move on somewhere else. So that's the one kind of linchpin that from the aerial side that does help, and you can cover a large amount of area to target especially a specific herd that's hanging around.
Absolutely. And, one thing we've run into the last 2 years with these grant cycles where they kind of hit it at bad times of the year. What's the best time of the year to use aerial control?
Really between after deer season, late January to about March is awesome. March, and then April, whenever they start getting the corn in, because that's more applicable. Anytime before the foliage gets on is obviously we can be we're more efficient because you can see more, and then you can also get more than just a half a second for a shot before they get into the brush. You generally, once the leaves get off the mesquites, and then it generally in the post oaks knock theirs off, then it works a lot better. The other issue that we've found is, sure everybody knows the carrizo cane is coming in pretty hard into the counties in this area, and the pigs are moving in there quite a bit, and those are really difficult to get in to find. So that's another piece of brush that's not been kind of a recent addition to that's very difficult to hunt as well.
Sure. Is that carrizo cane what I think of as a rundo cane? Maybe
yeah.
the bamboo stuff growing in the
bamboo
riparian zones?
Yes, sir. That's in almost every bar ditch around.
Yep.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, that's certainly a growing problem. Hey, so Derek, I've got a couple more questions, and then I was hoping to maybe bring on some video, but I know that some people may be hesitant to use aerial control for their hog problems, maybe due to livestock concerns or price. And I was wondering if you might talk about some of those concerns. I've been y'all's prices have been very reasonable compared to some of our previous costs on that. And I think it has to do with the kind of helicopters that you're flying. But maybe just talk about the costs and talk about some of the concerns that people might have before they might
Sure.
pick up the phone and call you guys.
Sure. So one of the biggest things that we ran in, this is our first year working for the task force. And one of the things that we were running into is having extra land to hunt. Obviously, the land isn't too big in Caldwell County. What I mean by that is not a lot of large acreage tracts. 7,000-8,000 acre stuff. It's mainly a few hundred acres here and there. And so that makes it really difficult. That's another factor that plays in whenever, we're trying to cover a decent area. So the big thing that we really want to improve on this year is getting landowner authorization for us to go. As far as us being flying on your property and being on your property, we never, ever, once we get a piece of paper, once we get the state permit signed, we'll never fly it without calling and getting a verification that it's okay. Because just because you give us the permit authorization doesn't mean we can go out anytime we want to and go hunt your property. You could be having folks out there or whatever. We will make positive contact with you and say, hey, Don, we're going to be out on Thursday at between 8 and 11, and just making sure it'd be all right if we go out and hunt. And say, yeah, that's fine, or no, I'm going to have some folks out there, and say, no problem, sir, we'll get you next time, or however that goes. So, but we will call every time to let you know a ballpark of when we'll be out there. And then when we're done, we're going to try to make a point to call every landowner that we've hunted, that we killed pigs on. If we didn't kill any pigs, we probably won't do a phone call because it's just real time consuming. But if we did kill something, we can only make a phone call and say, hey, we got 9 at your place on the South Pond or whatever. Whenever it comes to cost, the task force has they get a little bit of money allocated, and that helps us with keeping that constant pressure on, which once we get what we focus on is we'll call farmers to see who's getting ate up, and that's the first places we'll hit. It's real non-discriminatory. We only got certain land in Caldwell County that we have permission to hunt on, and a lot of it just has to do with we don't do a whole lot of hunting in this area. Most of our commercial hunting we do out in West Texas and South Texas because the tracts are bigger and we're able to do more commercialized hunts, that type of deal. So with that being said, the costs we're able to keep low. The other reason is we're pretty local. We're out here in Seguin, so it doesn't take us anything. It takes us 10 minutes to get to the county line, and then we can be hunting. The other thing, we also have all the personnel, so all employees, so they're already paid for. So it's another cost reduction that we have. The other reason that we're a little bit cheaper too, for the eradication purposes, whenever we're working for the task force, we take a trained gunner, and it's one of my Varacity employees, and that does a lot of hunts with us. And anyway, we put them in an R-22, which is a 2-seat helicopter single shooter, versus the R-44, which is 2 shooters. Sometimes 2 shooters is better, but if you get one trained guy, you can do almost just as good, and the cost is half of that.
Absolutely.
And so with what we're trying to do is keep a consistent pressure on the properties that we have permission to hunt on. So we want to kill about 80-90% of the pigs we see. That's a pretty good ratio, and we keep the pressure on that, and it makes those landowners happy because the pigs are moving off. And anyway, so for the cost of it is $350 an hour for an R-22 with gunners, and then for an R-44 is $700.
All right. Well,
I hope that answers the question.
Yeah, absolutely. And I tell you what, let's try to see, Valerie, let's see if we can share Derek's screen. And Derek, maybe you could show us a video of one of the hunts.
Yeah, and all the hunts that we do as far as safety and damage and things like that, we generally always use buckshot, 12 gauge buckshot. In the video I want to show you is one of our hunters. It was an event we're working directly for the landowner, no, it wasn't an event. This is Caldwell County that we're hunting, but it wasn't working for the task force on this particular event.
So can I chime in real quick? So Derek, you're actually going to have to share the screen on your end the way we did it earlier.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry.
No, you're fine.
I'm working on it. All right. Share. And so anyway, this is up in Caldwell County, and like I say, it's buckshot. So we use buckshot for a couple reasons. One, especially when you get into the smaller piglets, you'll kill a lot more pigs. You're a little bit more accurate. And it's also a safety factor, especially for something small property. I ain't got to worry about a 308 round going 1.5 miles whenever you're up at altitude. So, and that's another reason we're able to kind of guarantee folks that we're not, what we see is what we're going to hit, and the bullets are going to go straight down. We'll see how close we are, so we're pretty well tuned up to where we're at and what we're hunting.
So what helicopter is this one, Derek?
This is the R-44. This is the 4-seat helicopter. So in this helicopter normally have 2 shooters, and this one would be mainly going if we are taking a couple hunters out. But when we're working for the task force, we generally have 1 to keep the cost down. And like I say, our mission is to kill pigs, work with the task force, and to keep pressure is the other big concern that we're trying to do. But this is it's kind of a eradication, but kind of fun hunt. So you can see we're trying to make a video here, so it ends in the back with a kind of camera on it. And you can see how close we get. I mean, we know where we're hitting.
What is the range that you're usually trying to engage hogs at?
30 to 40 yards, and they are closer. You know, where it gets a little difficult is when you get in the brush. You can tell this is definitely in the wintertime. The foliage is off, and you can see how hard this would be when all the foliage is fully on. Which is why in the early springtime is best. No, we say early spring instead of November, December is because of deer season is we don't want to screw up somebody's hunt, which we inevitably would. So we usually just stay away from hunting property during deer season. People get pretty serious on that. So
sure.
So we usually just wait till after deer season and then get after it.
Well, I know a few years ago when we were working with Steve Van Buren and his crew, one time they got onto a sounder of something like 100 hogs. What's the size of some of the sounders you're seeing these days?
Mostly around 20 to 30 if it's a big sounder is pretty good. I can't say this year we've seen any. I've seen a sounder in the hundreds before, but it's pretty rare. I think really probably because the properties are so cut up, they have to kind of disperse themselves. But I'm not saying that we can't have any. I just haven't seen one in Caldwell or Hayes counties. But most of the we've seen is around 30. You can see some pretty big groups we got into here. The average is probably about 10 to 15. And which is really about like what we can really control that pretty good. You get 100, you can't keep them bunched up together before they run across somebody's property line you don't have permission to hunt on. So it's kind of almost an issue.
Sure. All right, I've got a question from Mike, and he's asking
Yes,
what kind of buckshot are you using? Double-aught, triple-aught?
Double-aught. Yeah,
double-aught
non-pellet double-aught. Just real simple stuff.
All right. Well, I know that I did the training a few years ago. We started out in a golf cart, and then we went into the helicopter, and we were shooting. We were shooting ARs. It was the first time I'd ever shot an AR, or first time I'd ever been in a helicopter, and I got it all in one day. It was something else. I'll say that.
Yeah, it's quite a deal. And what they are, like I said, when you get into a big group like that, it's I'll take a shotgun any day.
Sure.
And you'll definitely kill more. And like I said, a lot of times you'll see this guy, he hit him several times before he went down. A lot of times you'll hit him with buckshot, and they're dead. They just don't know it yet. So.
Yeah. All right. Well, I've got a few more questions.
Yes, sir.
I've got a few more questions coming in, Derek. So, first one I'll ask is the shot that you use. Do y'all try to use steel or lead shot?
Generally, just lead shot. Yes, sir.
Okay. And what's done with the other question is what is usually done with the carcasses that are left on the ground?
The carcasses are left where they lie, and they get cleaned up within a few days with buzzards and coyotes and everything else. So yeah, we'll kill. I mean, the event will be buried. These things are going to be really right where they lie. And they're usually going to be in the brush, so you generally won't see them. You're generally going to see some buzzards over your place for a couple days, and then they're gone. They get cleaned up pretty quick. There's no way that we can really remove all the carcasses because then we'd have to be driving on people's property, and we don't want to be doing all that. So, yeah, they just leave them where they lie.
Well, I think that, but it would generally be up to the landowner, though, correct? If they wanted to collect the carcasses, you guys do.
If they did, that would be something that we could coordinate. It'd be a one-off situation, but we could coordinate that. And say, hey, we're going to be out here between 10 and 11 or whatever. And if we pick them up, especially if it's going to be an open field that we can get into, then, yeah, then we can pile them up or whatever and getting a mule or something out there to do it. But it would be kind of a coordinated effort with the landowner. And I definitely want the landowner there and all that.
Sure.
Really walking on the property.
And so got another question from Mike on the charges. And you went over that before, but the I'm going to just type this in so we have it in the chat. And can you tell me the type of helicopter and the cost again for
yes.
That?
So for an R-22, it's $350 an hour, and that's the two-person helicopter, one pilot, one shooter. And then the R-44 is a four-person helicopter. We only take two shooters because of weight. So, and that's $700 an hour.
Okay, and that would be. So my understanding on how that works is that you can be a landowner and contract you guys to come out and pay you guys to, come on out, or you can be a recreational shooter that gets to go out and then you pay and you guys will go fly on some land that you've got an agreement on. Is that basically how that works?
That's right. So we can get a hunter says, hey, I want to go shoot pigs, and we can do it. We that's where we'd call, say, hey, I've got a couple hunters coming in from Canada or Mississippi, whatever, and say, okay, no problem. Then we start phone calling all our permitted landowners and say, hey, we're going to be out here on Saturday between 9 and 11, and is it all right if we hunt it? And then there's no cost at all to the landowner.
All right. And if folks are interested in
if folks are interested in getting their property signed up, then just give me a call on our office line is best. It's 830-379-9800. And what we'll need is we have a form that we'll fill out with basic contact information and location of the ranch. We'll also need to have a map of your property. And then what we do is we put this into the Texas Parks and Wildlife. They have a little database website we put that into. And then once we put the map in with all the landowner contact information, then it'll generate an email to the landowner to verify that all the information that we inputted is correct. And then he verifies his map is correct and then just approves it. If somebody has a problem with getting, working with computers or whatever, then just give us a phone call. We'll be happy. We'll send somebody out to you, or you're welcome to come by our office right here in Seguin, right off Rudolph Road. We're right by the baseball fields at I-10 and 46. And then we'll be happy to pull all the paperwork up and do it all here. It's no problem.
Well, I've been really pleased with the way that you guys, go about this. We always get great reports, and I'm sure landowners would be getting the same kind of reports on conditions and how many hogs were seen, how many hogs were killed. There was a question, are hogs seen and shot on every flight? And I think that in my experience, it's almost always the case, but that kind of depends a lot on, if you're flying at the right time of year. But in any kind of hunting, you're never guaranteed. Is that about right, Derek?
Yes, sir. That's right. Yeah. Working with the task force, I think we always got something. Like I say, it is hunting at the end of the day, so it depends on. It's all about location and timing. If you have us go out at 2 o'clock in the afternoon when it's 104 outside on 80 acres, we're probably not going to see nothing. If we go in the morning, decently cool morning, and especially in the wintertime, and we got a few thousand acres of different properties to hunt, I can almost guarantee you we're going to shoot something. So it really kind of depends on how big the opportunity is, if that kind of makes sense.
Sure. Well, I hope that folks that are interested, you can either call Varacity Aviation or you can contact us with the task force, and we can get you set up with an LOA. I think the next few months are going to be a good time to get the process started. So come January, we can start flying more properties in these counties and hopefully add some more counties. Do you what's the Derek, how far will y'all go? Like what kind of area are y'all flying usually? Mostly Guadalupe, Caldwell, Hays County, that kind of area?
Yeah, so we say on our we actually travel all over. I mean, we got trailers and trucks and the whole 9 yards. So
okay, we
go everything border all the way way past almost Arizona. So we got a pretty big range. We cover a lot of big country. So it works pretty well because we're, like I say, our main office is right here in Seguin, so we're able to take care of Guadalupe, Hays, Caldwell, and Gonzales counties. We do a little bit of decent work there, but our big work and big jobs are some of the stuff in South Texas and West Texas.
Okay.
And we also do work in Old Mexico as well, but that's for a different day for some of those stories. But
Oh, I bet so. Maybe we'll have to follow up on that one.
That's right.
All right. Well, hey, Derek, we're just about at the end of our scheduled time, but I do have one interesting question that
yes,
came
sir.
in also from Mike. So the one thing that's been that most hunters and trappers deal with, especially the trappers, are hogs that get smart to traps. And a lot of times it takes more work. And so Mike's question is, are the pigs adapting and avoiding choppers?
Yeah, so pigs they have a hard time looking up, so they can't really see looking up very well. But they do know the noise, and what a smart, wise pig will do is instead of running because your eye sees movement, they'll just hunker down in thick brush. And so to combat that, what you generally find to try to do is look. So when they first hear, we're trying to change our spotting tactics up, which is really 80% of pig hunting is spotting, kind of the same thing in any type of hunting. So if you look behind the helicopter whenever you're flying, is a pretty good tactic because a lot of times they won't move till you've already passed them. So they've already kind of heard the sound harmonic move on past them, kind of like when a train moves past you.
Yeah.
Then they feel safe and they'll start to move. The other little trick is whenever you see find a little piglet, is not go ahead and shoot him straight off. Wait for him to go rat his friends out, and then generally he'll bust out the rest of the herd. So we're going to try to follow them. And that's the other reason that hunting in the wintertime is real handy, because they have a lot less room to hide, where if they get in that real thick brush in the summer with the full canopy on, well, if we see one, we shoot one. You know, in the winter, we're a little more deliberate. We'll kind of, let's follow this guy a little bit and see where he takes us to. So a lot of times he'll go in and he'll go back to where the rest of his buddies are. So, you know, it just takes one dumb one to mess it up for the whole group. So.
Well, that's good.
That's
Well,
kind of
you know, maybe also y'all need to get a hot air balloon.
That's right. Go stealth on it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
stealth. That's legal now. I'm not sure how that works.
Yeah, you just don't know. You just don't get to choose where you go. It's the only problem there.
Yeah, I guess so. Maybe just a bucket of grenades or something.
That's right.
All right.
But yeah, they have gotten smarter, and the more you do fly, the more they will hunker up. Just like deer will do the same thing. You know, when you've been doing a deer survey on the place, those old bucks, they'll just put their head down and you'll fly right past them. But yeah, I mean, like I say, for the most part, it's still an effective tool. It's not the end-all, be-all solution. I don't advocate or practice telling anybody that, but it is a way that, you know, we can kill a decent amount of pigs in an efficient manner, and just one more tool in the toolbox.
Well, that's well said, and I agree. We had a discussion on toxicants yesterday, and there is no silver bullet for this